Hey, AJ here. Today I'm gonna make chocolate chip cookies. So chocolate chip cookies are actually one of the reasons I started baking. When I was younger, I really just wanted cookie, right? Like on Saturday mornings, I would watch cartoons. I'd watch like Digimon and I'd eat like a whole packet of Chips Ahoy or Oreos or the white chunk Chips Ahoy. That one I really, really liked. And when we would run out, and this was when I was a kid, I couldn't drive anywhere. I'm like, okay, well we have flour, sugar, butter, and chocolate chips. I'll just make cookies, right? And so that's the reason I started making food certainly it's why I started baking, is because I really just wanted the cookie. And so you can see, I love cookies. I make them all the time. I've made this chocolate chip cookie recipe, I don't know, 100 or so times. I have a Cookie Monster Pac-Man here. I want to get a Cookie Monster tattoo. I love cookies, in case it wasn't clear. So we're gonna make some today, and we're gonna do it so that my vicious, violent wife doesn't attack me and murder me in my sleep. Okay, so let's get into it. So when you're getting these cookies together, the first thing you want to do if you're making them plant-based is get your flax eggs going. This is a good rule for those of you who eat plant-based or can't eat eggs because you're allergic, like my father-in-law. He's allergic to eggs. He actually loves them, but he's allergic to them. He can have them baked and things though. So if I like using flax eggs, it seems to work the best of all the vegan egg substitutes when it comes to baking, but if you have one that works better, go for it. The equivalent of 2. And so for flax eggs, you want to do 1 tablespoon of flax meal for every 3 tablespoons of water, and then you got to let it sit for a while. So always do this first, because you want it to kind of turn into like a sludgy, that sounds really yummy, right? Sludgy like thing that looks kind of like an egg, right? So you want kind of the consistency of an egg, and it actually turns into that after a while. But I like using kind of warm water and leaving it for like 10 minutes, and then you'll definitely have the right consistency. So start with that. I'm gonna start with that right now. And the best practice with this is to stir it, but I'm not going to, because I'm not following the rules. Okay, so next thing is you want 2 cups of this flour. Now you want to actually, if you have something like this, I don't know what it's called, maybe a sifter, but it's used for sifting. I would 100% use it. I used to think this was kind of an overrated step and I would ignore it. And then when I got a clump of flour in one of my cookies, I was like, oh, this is the reason why people say to do this. I got it. So I would follow this and I would use it. If you don't have it, just do your best to kind of whisk it up a little bit. That'll make sure you aren't completely ruining it. Hey, AJ here. It's almost near the end of the recipe, but because of the magic of editing, I wanted to tell you, preheat your oven to 375. That's super important. Do that early so you don't have to stand around like me and wait and look at your watch and look at YouTube videos, and instead you could just throw the cookies in. So do that. All right, so we got our flour sifted. All right, looks wonderful. Now we got to get a little bit of baking soda in there, about a teaspoon. Be careful that you actually only put a teaspoon and not a tablespoon by accident, because that's how you get cookies that taste like soap. So that has happened to me. It is not awesome. Not as awesome as the smile would indicate. So throw about a teaspoon in there, and this is gonna help it rise a little bit. For those of you who care about the science or the chemistry of cookies. So you got that in there, and then the next thing you want is a little bit of salt. Now, I think the official measurement when I used to measure this was like 1/4 teaspoon. I always just do a good amount because I kind of like, chocolate, salty, sweet is good. And if I have flaky sea salt, I'll top these cookies with it. I don't, but you know, I still like them a little bit of salty. And then I add a little bit of cinnamon. You know, I've seen a few people do this. Some people don't like to. I like it because it's kind of a warming spice. It kind of balances it for me, and it adds to the brown butteriness that we're going to do. So now that you got this mixed, you know, you want to stir it together. Let me grab a whisk. By the way, look at these whisks. Like, this is a whisk. Can you believe that? It's weird. I like this one. Okay, so you're gonna whisk it together just to get it nice and incorporated. And then now that you've got your dry ingredients, you're gonna move on to your wet ingredients. So the first of which is gonna be browned butter. So with the brown butter, I like using this myokos. It's a vegan butter. It's made out of cashews and coconut oil. It's one of the only vegan butters I know that actually browns. Now, if you're like, I don't have that vegan butter or whatever, just put the butter. I mean, you could just put butter in it. You still melt it, but just put the butter in. It's fine. It's not going to make or break this cookie, but I really, if you can get it, use it. And if you're somebody who doesn't have a problem eating butter, or you can get good quality butter, I have made this in the past with normal butter, and it's amazing. So I can't, you know, we don't really eat that much butter, so we don't eat butter, so we eat this vegan one, but this is one of the only ones that I know for sure browns, otherwise I can't vouch for it. So I'm gonna take this over to the stove. It's gonna take probably like 10-15 minutes. You're gonna want like a big wide saucepan, not like a pot, because it's gonna help it toast up a little bit faster. And be careful not to burn it. So you wanna keep your eye on the butter so that it doesn't burn and become black, especially with this veggie one, because once it's black, that's it. It's not like with normal butter where like you can kind of salvage some of it. It's over. Okay, so I'm gonna take this over to the stove and get that going. All right, so this is the browned butter. This is super dangerous. Don't do this. You can see how it got legit brown. I just wanted to show you that you can make brown butter with vegan butter, that it's real, that it's not pretend. So what I like to do is I threw an ice cube in there, which is why it's sizzling, to help stop it so it doesn't burn. And then I have a cup of brown sugar and 1/3 of a cup of granulated white sugar. Now, if you don't like sugar, so like I have in-laws who sometimes like to avoid sugar, which is fine, no judgment. Just if you don't like sugar, you can substitute this with like maple sugar and coconut sugar, and it works similarly, and I can vouch that it does taste good. So I wanna pour the brown butter into the sugar while it's hot, actually. And the reason I do this while it's hot is you need it to cool off, but it also helps dissolve the sugar, which kind of makes it, you know, for the wet ingredients. And you want it to cool normally if you're making this with eggs, because you don't want to scramble your eggs. Now, I'm not making it with eggs, so it doesn't matter as much. But yeah, so this is basically what you want to get going. So I'm going to let it cool down just a little bit, stir it together. My demanding, vicious wife is right there, and she wants to eat lunch. So I'm going to let this kind of become a slurry and eat lunch, and then I'll finish this after I eat. So my demanding, vicious wife, which she likes the title of, has said, you know what, finish making me the cookies because I need them cookies. Skip lunch, don't eat, and that's it. So here I am back with the cookies, skipping lunch. Okay, so you've got the brown butter and the sugars mixed together. So it looks kind of like this. Smells pretty good. You can smell the brown butter. You can smell also that it's not real butter, but it's pretty close. All right, so now we've got our flax egg, which hopefully has turned into a sludge. So you want to add that in there. Oh yeah, there you go. See, you really want it to have that consistency of an egg. At least I do. I don't know if you do, but you should want it that way. This is how I want it. All right, so we're mixing that in. You're gonna throw a little bit of vanilla extract in. The official measurement is, I don't know, 2 teaspoons, but I'm just gonna throw some in. Don't do too much. That's the only rule with the extracts, is because there's alcohol or something like alcohol in them. So if you put too much, it will taste alcoholic, which is not the best flavor for your cookie. It's close to the worst, but I wouldn't say the absolute worst. All right, so you got this mixed up all together. Make sure you really get it mixed. And then once you got the wet ingredients, typically you want the dry ingredients to go to the wet ingredients, but I did this backwards because I did. So we're gonna go wet ingredients into the dry ingredients. So we're gonna pour it in. Looks good, actually. Some of the sugar on the bottom is stuck. And we're just gonna get this stirred, mixed up. And then after we get this stirred together, we're gonna add some chocolate chips, some walnuts, and then throw it in the oven. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's super, super basic, super simple. So I'll see you in a little bit. I'm gonna get this stirring. Now we're gonna add the mix-ins. So with the mix-ins, I mean, feel free to get creative with them. I like putting things like gluten-free pretzels in. I like using the Quinn brand. Obviously chocolate chips. Chocolate chunks are really great in cookies, in my opinion. I don't have a chocolate bar right now, so I'm just gonna do chips. But I like using these Lily's ones. You can use whichever one you want. The Ghirardelli ones are really good too. So you wanna do something like, you know, about a cup. You want kind of a lot in there. You can go more if you want, but I am going to fill this thing with walnuts as well. So you want to do around a quarter of a cup to a half cup of whatever it is. I just chopped these bad boys up, and so these are ready to go. So once you got the walnuts and the chocolate chips in there, you want to get them mixed up nice and good. And then once they're mixed up, you could really just kind of throw them in. I do recommend letting this dough sit for about 15 to 30 minutes. So like if you're like me and you forgot to preheat your oven, that works out for you. But if not, then I strongly recommend letting them sit, because if they feel like they're too watery or loose, they will thicken up as they sit. It's just because the butter is melted. So literally as the butter starts to firm up, your dough will firm up as well. So my recommendation is to get that going, and then we'll come and scoop them out, and then it's ready to go in the oven, and then I can get them to my fairy wife. All right, so now we're getting our baking sheet ready. I got one of these slip mats. This baking sheet's a little too big, but I'd rather too big than too small. I like this. If you don't have a slip mat, which I strongly recommend getting if you're somebody who likes to, you know, minimize your waste, or you just bake a lot. I mean, this is a little bit easier than using parchment. You can use parchment. You can use aluminum. I don't love it as much because the bottom of it's gonna get more brown than you want. So now we got our cookie dough. Now, I usually like using an ice cream scoop so I can make nice big old cookies. Don't have an ice cream scoop here because this isn't my house, so I'm going to just form them by hand. And so I recommend them being like around 1 to 2 ounces if you like the little guys, or you can make them big. I mean, if you like the monster cookies, like the big ones, that's how I like to make it. Then you want them to be about like the size of an ice cream scoop. I don't know how many ounces that is. My guess is 4 or 5, but I have no clue. So I'm gonna just, you know, recommend you kind of eyeball it and make them tall enough. And then once we get them on here, you kind of have 2 choices. You can either throw them in the fridge, which I recommend actually, because then they can kind of get solid again and they kind of bake better. And really, if you can freeze them, that's the ultimate. That's really the best one. But if you're impatient like me, you can just throw them straight in the oven. They're gonna be a little flatter than normal, so it's something to pay attention to. So yeah, let's get forming these and then get them in maybe the fridge for at least 10 minutes, all right? All right, so I got my cookies out of the fridge. You can see how they're kind of solid right there. So yeah, so these are good now. You want them kind of solid. They've been in there for about an hour. I went and took lunch. I walked my dogs, etc. So I'm gonna throw these in the oven. You want them in there for like 10 to 15 minutes. And because these are bigger, they might need to be in there a little longer. So what I've noticed is when they're bigger, usually like 15 to 18, when they're smaller, like 10 to 12. So I'm gonna throw these in the oven now, and then hopefully in about 17 minutes, we're gonna have some amazing cookies to eat. All right, so I just pulled these cookies out of the oven. There they go. Oh, that looking good. Yeah, trying to thumbnail a little bit too, but I hope you can see them as well. So right after you pull them out, you want to show them to the camera, and then you want to let them sit for about a minute or two. I like to pull them out a little under, personally, for a couple of reasons. Like, one, if it's a vegan cookie, there's nothing really going to be raw in there. I mean, raw flour, I guess, could taste gross or whatever, but I kind of like the middle to be more like cookie dough. If you like your cookies like extra crunchy, like my mom, she loves cookies like hard. Like, she's like, a cookie needs to be crunchy and a cake is soft, is, I don't know, some sort of thing she made up. But if you like your cookies soft, you like the inside kind of gooey, melty, I would pull it out, you know, closer to the 15-minute mark for the giant cookies, and if you're doing the small ones, maybe around the 9-minute mark. So I'm gonna pull these off, put them on a cooling rack so that the bottoms don't burn up too much, and then I will you know, get them nice and plated, and then I'm gonna bring my wonderful fairy wife to give them a taste and hope it's everything she wanted. Just come on in. Here are the cookies you demanded of me.
Okay.
There they are. Well, let's see if they look good. Are you ready to try some?
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but it's pretty fresh out the oven, so it might be still a little warm, and they are a little bit under. So give us your feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. That's a legit yeah. Not like last time we were like, eh. I guess I'll eat it.
They're really good.
What are you tasting in it? Cookie, chocolate, joy. Do you taste
brown butter?
Oh, you taste the brown butter? Yes.
And it makes it more like caramely almost.
Awesome. Where would you rank these on my cookie scale of the hundreds I've made?
10.
Oh, you'd put a 10? This is really good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Good. So there you had it. Straight from the fairy wife, who is never vicious. She is always good. Anything you would change? Only thing I wish I had flaky salt, but besides that, that's just for aesthetics, so it looks cute.
No,
Nope.
I mean maybe a little bit more walnuts.
Oh, really? Okay. Cool.
That's it.
Sweet. All right. Well, there you go. Cookies. Thank you so much for taste testing.
Thank you for the cookies.
You're welcome. You can take some if you want. Yeah, take them. No? Okay. All right. So those are the vegan brown butter gluten-free chocolate chip cookies. If you make these, please tag me at @HeyAJ_Rivera. I'd love to see your version. If you put something different in it, let me know. I've always wanted to try it with cashews because I just like eating cashews, but nobody else seems to have the same affinity for them that I do. So I've never actually tried it. So if you try that, go ahead and tag me, or if you have your own version or any tips on what I could do to make this better so that I can get an 11 from my wonderful magical wife who's watching me. Let me know. If you like these types of videos, you know, smush like, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next video of whatever I'm here doing. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. You like it?
Yeah.
All right.